Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. Today we get to hang out with the whole complement here.
I'm Ryan.
Dave. So we got Ryan, we got Dave, and
I'm Nate.
So,
dude, we should all do it at once.
Today we haven't done this one in a while, but we got a terrible terrain, and today we want to introduce you to the Crawlwood.
Yeah, we've actually introduced.
We got some wood in our crawl.
Yeah, we've introduced you wood, pervert, freak. We've introduced elements of this throughout different videos so far.
Elemental evil, because that happened in different videos.
I was thinking like the thorn whip and
So it's kind of been. We had this brief like pre-camera roll discussion about sort of incorporating different elements of things we come up with.
This video concept started by us, working on one of our other series, BFFs. And we said, okay, well, what about this creature and this creature? And it didn't work. So we started, going through the monster manual. And we said, all right, well, what about these guys?
And this, and this,
and then this, and then this.
And then a whole bunch of stuff. That's not entirely true, because really, like, we actually did like a Mage Forge that did this, like, even a little bit of our BFF with the Shambling Mound and Will-O-Wisp.
Well, what wound up happening, is while we're talking about other things, we're like, well, what if we turned this into a terrible terrain and made it something bigger? And then the conversation says, well, then we could add this thing over here and add this thing over here that we previously talked about. And what started as a one small little concept became just this,
it blossomed.
It bloomed into a blighted, thorny rose.
Yep. Good job, guys. Great video. Yeah. You guys get all that?
All right. Done.
So we've got the Crawlwood. Now, the reason, we'll start out big and work our way in. The reason we call it the Crawlwood is, it's more of a mobile forest. The sickness, the evilness of this forest.
Well, the forest is immobile, just a piece.
It moves and tries to kind of take over whatever else is around it.
Yeah.
So that it'll corrupt and pollute some of the trees and ground as this crawling wood moves forward.
So I thought it was like the elder thing, Shambling Mound, that actually moves.
Yeah, well, I mean, so what we're saying, like, in my mind, what really makes this the Crawlwood is we have lots of sort of vegetable matter sort of baddies in it, like evil,
terrible things,
terrible treants, like treants, and blights, and a giant big ass elder shambling mound that like these primitive people revere, like the barbarians that live in the forest revere. And so you have a bunch of things that are typically stationary plants, and myconoids that are moving around. So
evil myconoids, you can tell because they have red eyes.
Oh, absolutely.
But so because all these elements of the forest are moving, people have the sense that the forest is alive. So it's kind of the
sense that it creeps and it crawls.
Yeah,
but it doesn't really move anywhere.
There's a bunch
of it wander out and come back.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if you're like, oh, stay out of that forest. Oh, why? And you walk by and you're like, oh, because there's totally things moving in there. I'm out of here. I'm out of here.
Because it totally just moved 10 feet out of the forest.
The trees look like they look back.
You got a coven of hags, in the center that are worshiping. If you saw our Mage Forge for the thorn vine, we talked about this gigantic shambling mound that's been around forever.
I almost feel them less that they're worship. They're exploiting. It's the thing that the reason
more
that
like
other things revere it.
Yeah,
they tend it. They're handlers. They're handlers of it. Then they sort of they saw it and they're like, we can cultivate this, and it's beautiful in its creepy sort of way,
and people will follow it.
And there could have already been nomadic peoples following this thing, and they could basically capitalize on they figured out how to communicate with it and basically contact
Go left.
contact it's meant it's psyche or whatever, really speak to it on a primal level, and so they coax it into this wood. And then, it becomes a part of the environment.
They're like,
yeah,
I got Miracle Grow.
Yeah,
I got Miracle
Grow. Yeah, so they coax it into this wood, and then they, there's these tribes people that also worship it. You got the blights that are around, those plant-like monsters from the monster manual.
So, our original idea with this, which is I would like to stick to, is the fact that it's actually on a higher level of consciousness. That it's not intelligent or sentient. Is that this realm
doesn't interest it.
It doesn't notice it because it's looking into multiple realms of dimensions at one time.
That's really convenient with the Hags, because the Hags, when you get a coven of Hags together, they get things like contact other planes.
Yeah, so they're talking to it.
They have that ability. If the consciousness is elsewhere, they can actually talk.
There's also the possibility that at first they misunderstand its nature and think don't realize that it is actually intelligent, right? Mm-hmm. And they start, as they're manipulating it and they think they're controlling it, what they slowly find out as it develops more worshippers, it gives it these moments and glimpses into this realm.
Clarity.
Yeah, where it'll communicate what it actually wants, and they might be like, "Whoa, wait a minute."
they're out of
we said left, it's going right. Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah. So it's almost like they're it's almost like this
chess match.
Well, apathetic ruler type, and they're like the sort of Palpatines ruling from behind the scenes, the evil advisors. Except they're like, oh wait, this thing is on a much higher plane of consciousness than we first thought.
Yeah. I'm thinking Cthulhu, absolutely, Lovecraftian type denizens, that thing.
Denizai, yeah.
And so with that, we got the two basically main power bases, which is the Covenant of Hags, the Elder Thing, Shambling Mound, and then then you have evil Trents, and then we have evil Myconids. Again, this because they have red eyes.
Pretty much any plant, any carnivorous plant, evil plant, it's all there. Every single one.
The twig blights,
yes. Blights. You've got trolls, or a variety of different carnivorous things. We talked about
the trust monster.
We talked about the trust monster in another video,
so that could be another minion.
If you haven't seen that, go check that one out. But you'd have ettercaps,
creepy crawly spiders, insects, swarms of like crows or ravens.
Swarms of anything is totally going to fit in here.
Bunnies, swarms of bunnies.
But you're gonna encounter all kinds of natural hazards. It could have quicksand that could just be could look like normal ground that just happens to pull you in. Is it
kind of what quicksand is?
Yeah, but quicksand still looks like sand.
Where does quicksand naturally occur anyway? Is it only in deserts, or could there be
I think it's swamps.
Swamps. Yeah.
Because I was thinking there could be parts of this that are adjacent to a swamp or whatever too, so you could have that go on. You could just have pits of, essentially it's thin, just lots of light vegetation, but it looks like solid ground, and it's actually just a pit trap, and it's just you just go straight down to a bunch of rotting vegetable matter. It's a thing that looks like a solid surface until you walk on it, and then you just go plunging on down.
Yep.
It's like sinkholes, sort of.
Well, if they had a vegetation mat that grew over them, it could even be a subterranean carnivorous plant that actually is in the ground.
Kind of like the thing from that ate Boba Fett. The Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, but with a vegetable cover.
Well, yeah, it could be. Well, that's exactly. It could be certain places are honeycombed, But then that thin mat has grown over, which creates these natural pits. Mm-hmm. That so it's nothing that was creative. Whatever happened is honeycombing, and then everything kind of grew over top of it.
Yeah. Also, you could absolutely have just random scarecrows in this creepy forest.
Now, the other thing, anytime you've got something that the land is so horrible and evil that adventurers have really no reason to go into it.
You have to absolutely give them reasons to go into it.
You need to give them reasons. So here's where you have some kind of magical creature, magical plant, magical something or other that its value is so compelling that either someone pays someone to go look for it, or that the players need to go get it for something that they're working on.
The kinds of things you would need to include in the formulae to make a magic item. Right. The kind of shit that that level of stuff.
Or the cure petrification, or a magical disease or something like that.
Right.
Like the nightingale moon blossom.
Lotus blossom.
That only
blooms on the full moon.
Yeah, in its
solstice.
Yeah. Or maybe certain trees produce this dark wood that has properties to it, and it's the only place to find it.
Yeah, they could also be kidnapping people to sacrifice to the Elder Shambling Mound. So the high value targets could be kidnapped, or if they just want to do the right thing and save people. And another thing we're talking about with the Crawlwood was the idea that it could maybe be like a thin band between the courts of the sun and the moon of our elves, that it's kind of like this natural barrier hedge that they both keep like pushing back and forth against one another. Like the sun court like wants to like always prune it back, but then the moon court's like, well, these things are kind of utilitarian. They keep the pests out of our realm. So they kind of like try to utilize and cultivate them.
Yeah, I feel like the moon court uses it as a wall buffer against the sun court, and the sun court is burn this shit down. Burn it down.
So one side's feeding it, the other side's trying to take it out. It doesn't really, no one, either side actually really ever accomplishes anything, because then you also have the hags in between working their own agenda.
Yeah, it's just one of the reasons why it's so entrenched and it's not easy to remove is the amount of sentient and malignant creatures and plants in it.
And the fun thing is that it probably does change size. Sometimes it does like shrink down, and sometimes it does expand out, depending on what's going on
with the court politics and this and that. But it's just like in Soviet Russia, forest prune you.
The other thing when you're creating a terrain like this, it's nasty, it's vile,
terrible.
It's terrible. But there's got to be an ecology. So if there's all these,
there's going to be flora and fauna.
Monsters.
Yeah.
So you've got to have flora and fauna,
like carnivorous deer,
that are able to stand up to what's there and not just get mowed down or completely driven off.
Well, yeah, I mean, like every once in a while, like a herd of deer will cross like a busy highway or something like that. Yeah. Like this place is the busy highway. Like it's a terrible place to be, but sometimes deer still go through. Yeah,
and sometimes they make it.
And sometimes, most times they make it. Sometimes they don't.
And sometimes they're corrupted by it. And you've got a meat-eating deer. With,
let me tell you, one of my worst nightmarish encounters ever playing this game was against flying squirrels. Yeah, it was a monster in 18. You guys know, somebody out there, you know what I'm talking about. They're carnivorous flying squirrels, and they would fall out of the trees on you. They would attach themselves, and they would have like a blood drain attack.
So it's basically like Sturgis. Just there.
But furry.
Speaking of which, they would definitely be in this part.
Yeah. You're like, oh, look at the cute wildlife. Look, wait a minute, why do they have red eyes? Oh no, they're evil.
It's coming right for us.
And then they face hug you and bite you on the head.
Yeah, pretty much.
So there you have it. There's our terrible terrain, the Crawlwood. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. While you're doing that, feel free to click like, share, subscribe.
You can always tweet at us over at the Twitters.
That's right. We're Nerdarchy there, or you can check us out on nerdarchy.com.
Also join the conversation over on Reddit.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.